Get your stinking rat out. It's late night large.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Late Night Large, Lockdown Large, Extra Time. This week, we're going to be talking about the much promised comment on the new Champions League format. Yes, the Champions League format that was, I think, announced and confirmed officially just after the Super League debacle was shut down. So it kind of the idiotic clubs that joined in with the Super League nonsense, they made tits out of themselves for two reasons. Number one is because they'd actually, I believe all of them had already agreed to the new Champions League format, so that made them look really foolish. And number two is, that took all the coverage, the Super League. So no one was talking about the rights and the wrongs of the new Champions League format, which me and Mike would attempt to remedy tonight in our own inimitable way for a handful of people who might watch it. But so you should know the format by now. 20 minutes we give ourselves to talk on these subjects. So we have the timer. We'll set it to 20 minutes and off we go. Right, Mike, what do we know?
Yes.
Quickly, what do we know initially about this new Champions League format? They call it the Swiss style format. What do you know?
Yeah, because it's got so many holes in it.
Oh, very good. That was actually quite good.
Beautiful. I know. Yeah. So what we've got then is we have instead of the traditional groups of four, you play each opposition twice, home and away in your group.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, so 6 group games if you like, and then it goes into the later stages. What you have now is just one big league, but there's also they've extended the league, so it's actually 36 teams now in the competition, opposed to 32 as there is currently. Worth noting as well, this doesn't come into place. I think it's the 24-25 season that starts. So it's not from next year or anything.
That's worth clarifying. Okay.
So you've got your 36 teams.
Yeah.
And it's league format. So as far as I know, it's randomized how they do it, but you basically play 10 different teams. Half of them you play away, half of them you play at home. I don't know exactly how they're going to work it out. If it's just drawn, I guess it would have to be. Could be pretty fucking tricky though. You could be a minnow and pick the 5 biggest fucking teams in the competition all away.
Yeah.
And that's not very fair. So I don't really know, but that's what they're saying. So obviously what they've managed to do initially there straight away is they shoehorned 4 more games in for everyone. So you don't have the 6 initial games. You now have 10, 5 at home, 5 away. Then once everyone's played those games, you've got your 36 team league.
Mm-hmm.
From there, you've got your top 8 that qualify for the final 16 automatically. You then have from 25, so from 25th down, you're just out of Europe. That's it. Cheers, thanks for coming. Ta-da, goodbye. 9th to 24th, then have I think it's 2 legs, a 2-leg playoff. Again, I'm not sure how they're seeded and how it works exactly, whether 9th plays 24th or whatever. But you have a 2-leg playoff to determine the final 8 in the last 16. And the teams that are unsuccessful from that playoff, I think, then go into Europa. From there, so from the final 16, though, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same as is, I think.
I was just trying to think
so in essence, that's... Go on.
I was just trying to think of the top of my head. I was trying to work out what the maximum amount of games would be for a team. So if I work this out, so we're working on the basis that it's a relatively small club or a team that's finished poorly in the last season. So first of all, they would have a minimum of 2 pre-qualifiers. So home and away pre-qualifiers, I think. Isn't that right? If they have to go through the pre-qualification stage. So they'll
Yeah.
play a random team home and away to qualify for the right to be in the 36. So that's 2.
Go on.
That's 2.
You can work it out. I think it's 18.
Okay, 2. Then 10, obviously minimum for the league. Then say they finished 9th. That's another 2. So we're up to 14 already. Then the final 16, that's another 2. 16.
Oh, yeah.
Then the quarterfinals, 18. Semi-finals, 20. 21. 21
Yeah,
matches.
21.
You could potentially have to play 20. If you, by the way, I know people will say, oh, what's the likelihood that a team that pre-qualifies is going to win the Champions League? Liverpool did it, I believe, in 2005. We did it, United, in 1999. So it's actually not that rare because big teams can have off seasons, but then have a storming year in the Champions League. But 21 matches, Jesus Christ. Okay,
Yeah, well,
so
you know why, don't you? We all know why.
I mean, let's leave that to the end. So let's just we'll work up to that. I think we know where we're going.
Yeah, let's work up to that. Yeah.
I mean, yeah. All right, we know where the destination will end up at. The important thing is we enjoy the journey. So yeah, so right now we've just qualified for the Champions League, but we need to enjoy the journey to the final that we know is rigged. So it's important to say, Mike, that to look at, have a brief look at the history of the Champions League. So much like the Premier League, the Champions League came into being in 1992. That was a very big year for football. So 1992 was the new Champions League, which replaced the old format, just European Cup, that was effectively just straight knockouts. The Champions League, as you can imagine, started out as a league filled with only the champions of those countries, hence where the name comes from. Gradually over time, I believe it was relatively mid to late 90s. Was it 97 or 98 where they started incorporating runners up from some of the more powerful leagues, and then it obviously expanded the Champions League to, ended up with like top 4 for the strongest leagues, top 2 for the second tier leagues, and just the champions potentially of weaker leagues. So it got expanded and expanded. Usually what you would have is you'd have the pre-qualifiers, then obviously the 32 qualified teams who'd be divided into various leagues where they would, like as Mike said before, 4 of them in a league. They would play the other 3 teams home and away, and the top 2 would qualify. Although it must be said, there's been a few reorganizations. So there were some seasons, I believe, where you could qualify as the best 3rd place because of the number of teams in it was uneven. So the best 3rd places in groups could qualify. I believe, Mike, I don't know how long this lasted, but I definitely have distinct memories that there was at least a season or 2 where they rejigged it so there were 2 group stages. Do you remember that? Where you had a group stage and then they qualified for another group stage before the knockouts. Do you remember that? I don't know if I probably should have researched this before we started. I'm almost certain that I remember at least the seasons. I don't think it was very popular. I think that's why it was shelved quite quickly. But the reason I say it is because it's important to note that UEFA do not just change the Champions League every 20 years. They have rejigged it quite a few times. This is just a bigger format change than we're usually used to. And obviously people generally hate change. We get that. But to make it so, Mike's given a pretty good introduction. So I've got the UEFA page in front of me. So just to clarify what Mike said, so round of 16 is exactly the same. Nothing has changed from the round of 16. It's home and away knockouts until the final. So that nothing has changed from there. But as Mike said, 36 teams go in and they are not divided into leagues. There is a single homogenous league. And instead of playing every team home and away, you will presumably get drawn to randomly play 10 other teams, but only in one venue. So 5 of those will be home draws and 5 of them will be away draws.
So just on that bit there,
Yeah.
do you not think that's pretty flawed? Because obviously at the moment we have the seed system where, you know, you've got the top seeds in each group and then the second and third and fourth.
Yeah.
Then surely they've got to try and incorporate that somehow.
Well, seeding.
Well, does it actually say on there? Otherwise, like I said, you could end up with someone who, because the other thing we haven't clarified, which I guess you've just come into, is how the 4 additional teams qualify.
Yeah, I'll go into that.
But say you are one of those teams, and then you draw Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Real Madrid, Man United, and Juventus.
I know what you're saying. And by the way, you're right. That they haven't. That's deliberate. They've deliberately seemed to have removed the seeding element, because what they say, I mean, okay, let's forget for a minute it's all about, and let's take UEFA's word for it. It says this gives the opportunity for clubs to test themselves against a wider range of opponents, and also raises the prospect. Can you hear the word Super League whispered in your ear with this next sentence? The prospect of fans seeing the top teams go head to head more often earlier in the competition. That sounds very much like the Super League. The new format should mean that there is more to play for right up until the final night of league action. So there you go. What they're doing is they're throwing in as many different justifications as possible to avoid people drawing the inevitable conclusion that it's about money. By saying, no, this is about smaller teams having the opportunity to play the Barcelonas and Real Madrids. It also means there's more chance of Clásicos in the Champions League, or Bayern Munich against Liverpool, or, you know, and what they're also saying is, oh, yeah, there's going to be less dead rubbers. So there's more chance that by the final league night, only a handful of teams will be eliminated and all the matches will mean something. That's what they're trying to say.
Well, do you think? So obviously, I don't know what your opinion is on this, but do you think that they will? I mean, let's just say they fix it. And now never would accuse them of doing something like that ever. But let's say they did. Do you think they'll fix it so that there's a big team in every fixture? So there'll be at least, in nearly every single fixture, so that they are mixed across them. So every team's got every game that you've got at least one of the big teams in it to draw crowds. So every single one of these extra games has, brings that in. Or, because this is where if they just play the big teams against each other, and then that means you've just got little teams playing, or littler teams, because they are in the Champions League. Let's not disrespect anyone, but then they're not going to draw as much money, are they? So how would you think if they were to fix it, how would you imagine they do it?
It's an interesting question. I mean, yeah, if they were, and obviously UEFA are a spotless ethical organization, just like FIFA, but if they were to fix it, I don't know, I'm in two minds, because if you take their explanation at face value, we want the big games earlier on. We want the Bayern Munichs to play the Real Madrids without it necessarily being as late as the semi-finals. So everyone's more interested in the group stage. But then that leaves more room for Real Madrid and Bayern Munich to be knocked out early. And like you say, to leave more minnows, or let's say unattractive legacy teams still left in the later stages of the competition. But on the flip side, don't we all love a story of an underdog in the later stages of the Champions League? I don't know. You can see it either way. I get that they're like, oh no, we need bigger games earlier on because people don't pay enough attention to the group stage. I get that, but then you're leaving yourself then open to knocking some of those big teams out. So then the knockout stage becomes less interesting. So you kind of lose something either way. I don't know.
I think probably what it is there's enough big teams So they're pretty much going to guarantee there will be more big teams playing each other because there will be more big games due to this league format. There will be, and what they're banking on is probably at least a good, probably 13, 14 of the last 16, at least 12 maybe, will be those bigger teams. Will be 12 of the 20 bigger teams, say.
You'd probably say so, because even if they didn't make the top 8, you'd suggest they'd be quite strongly placed to win their playoffs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just quickly, Mike, so we don't get too carried away before. So so as you were saying, how are the 4 additional spots allocated? So as we know, effectively this has expanded it by 4 teams. So the qualification parameters have to change somewhat to incorporate these extra 4. So UEFA say slot 1 will be one of the additional places will be awarded to the club ranked 3rd in the championship of the association in 5th position in the UEFA National Association ranking. Now that sounds really bureaucratic and arbitrary, quite frankly. I'm guessing 5th position UEFA National Association ranking, is that based on coefficients, as in which is the 5th strongest national league?
Okay, my question is there. What if the Premier League becomes the 5th strongest? We already have 4.
Aren't we well above 5th though, Mike? I would have thought we'd be in the...
Yes, but what if... Are we saying that's never going to change?
Well, I mean, we've got shitloads of money, so it's unlikely to change that much.
Yeah, okay, it's unlikely, but okay, a league like ours.
No. Yeah, I mean, you're right. That could cause big problems, but all I'm saying is this is what they're stating. So that's slot 1. Slot 2 will be awarded to a domestic champion by extending from 4 to 5 the number of clubs qualifying via the so-called Champions Path. Okay,
What?
so we'll have to look into that. And slots 3 and 4 awarded to the 2 clubs with the highest club coefficients that have not qualified automatically for the Champions League stage, but have qualified either for the Champions League qualification phase or the Europa League.
So you could qualify for the Champions League qualifiers, not get through, but still get into the competition.
Apparently, yeah. With the highest club coefficient. Hang on. I think...
Why don't you just have 2 extra teams qualify?
I mean, presumably, it's kind of like, I guess, Mike,
just to ensure...
What?
You know why, don't you?
What?
It's to ensure that, let's say a bigger team has to go through that qualification. It's if you do have any bigger teams in there, for whatever reason they don't qualify, you're ensuring those 2 extra teams there are the biggest teams possible.
It's giving them an additional straw to clutch at to get into the Champions League.
The biggest teams possible will go in via that route.
Yeah. No, effectively, you're right. In a way, what they've done is stitched it up a little bit just to ensure that as many as possible of the big legacy teams qualify no matter what. And again, this is when you look at you hear the Super League whispered in your ear, because it's very much the ethics of the Super League. Yes, clubs can be relegated and eliminated season by season, but with these new rules, it's quite unlikely that they'll be ruled out completely. Well, unless they're Arsenal. So it says, obviously there's a lot of bullshit about how will it benefit the wider European game, blah, 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 blah. How will this affect fans, blah, 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 blah. I'm really interested in this whole Champions Path. I think we probably haven't got enough time left to investigate that. Maybe that's something for a later lockdown large. But apparently there's a Champions Path that is one of the methods of qualifying. You could argue, Mike, that at least half of those slots, I know some of them seem to be like future proofing against, in case, you know, Liverpool or Real Madrid somehow don't qualify through the traditional paths, to make sure they're definitely in. But there's also an alternative of some of the other slots. It's almost like, it seems like a lucky dip. You know, it's like it allows the clubs from smaller nations who you know, lost their lottery ticket to get a free lucky dip, and maybe they'll
Hang on.
as well.
I think I know what I think I
What,
right. So if I'm right, the Champions Path, that is the smaller countries in Europe,
that sounds
where even the winners of the league still have to qualify.
pre-qualify. Yeah.
So what they're saying is that there'll be one of them will automatically qualify for winning their league.
Yeah, it seems like it.
Or an extra one, and they won't have to then qualify, and then the others will, as usual, or whatever. Because I think the Czech league have that.
Right. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure even the Czech league, even if you win, I might be wrong, but even if you win the league, you have to still qualify.
I think you're right. Yeah, because it's very rare you see teams like I'm trying to think, Slavia Prague, Banica Strava, those kind of teams. They're not always in the Champions League proper, are they? So yeah, you're right. So we're nearly out of time. So quickly, as you can imagine, Mike, most big club managers have unanimously been negative towards this for obvious reasons. I mean, they've already got very stretched playing schedules. So the argument is, so where are we going to fit in these extra 4 matches? And as we worked out before we started talking, if you happen to have to go for a pre-qualifying round, I know it seems unlikely for teams from England, but obviously the team that finished in 4th, I believe, has to do a pre-qualifier. So say Liverpool or even Manchester United, Chelsea, whoever, they have a pretty poor season by their standards, finish 4th, so they have to do a pre-qualifier. We worked it out that if they have to go through a pre-qualifier and then struggle initially in the enormous 36-team league, say they finished 11th or 12th in that, meaning they have to take a playoff to be able to guarantee qualification, they potentially would need to play 21 matches to win the Champions League. Now, you could argue, oh, well, yeah, you know, it's a big trophy, so you know, if you want to win it, then you have to play. But where are you going to fit them in the calendar? Like, you think about how few weeks or weekends there are already when you don't have European qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers.
Well, I think what it'll do is you'll have those bigger clubs then, if they end up in that situation, and even some bigger clubs may not bank on being top 8 in the group stages if they do qualify proper for the Champions League. I think what you'll see is they will put less and less importance on their domestic cups. They'll just,
yeah, I mean,
because they can't afford to. So it'll be, you know, people do it at the moment. You know, so maybe the League Cup or whatever, they'll play the 23s and stuff like that. But
the League Cup will become a joke, won't it? Effectively.
Yeah, and will it have an effect on the FA Cup?
I think I think you're right.
Is that going to become less of a thing? And that's just our country. That would be, it will be across the board, I imagine.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. And obviously, finally, it's difficult to escape. Do you know what? No, I'm gonna play devil's advocate. So I know we both agree that this is all about the money, and anyone who says it's not about the money is talking out the other side of their mouth. We know this effectively. I don't know whether this UEFA specifically dreamed this up to mitigate the possibility of a European Super League. You know, we're only speculating, but it would seem very convenient that UEFA basically genuinely believed that a Super League was very possible, and they said, listen, no, we'll find a way to get you more money. Now, remember that clubs do not unanimously agree to this. Club directors and chairmen and owners agree to this. Managers will not agree to it. Players will probably be like, don't know, fans will be like, really? So effectively, again, this is really the only the people with money and power that are driving this. The people who actually run things and spectate and cheer the players on. I don't think they're really in favour of this. But I'm going to play devil's advocate. Sorry, I was going to say, I want to play devil's advocate and say I don't think this is entirely a bad idea. I can actually see some positives in it. Don't get me wrong, it could be a massive flop and it could change. But this is the good thing, it could change. This isn't necessarily a permanent change. As we've said, it's evolved a lot. But, you know, it's not going to ruin the whole integrity of the competition because the knockout phases are still there the way they should be. You know, it could be interesting. Let's see how it goes for a couple of years. All the extra games, wow. Anyway, Mike, your closing thoughts.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think, do you know what? It is what it is. So let's give it a chance. Let's try and be positive about it where we can. Yes, there could be fixture congestion. Yes, it could impact a lot of the domestic trophies in different countries, which isn't great. But let's see what happens. I think this was unanimously voted in. But you're right. It was unanimously voted in by the owners of the clubs, not the staff, not the playing staff, certainly not the management. So it is what it is. It is fucking about money. But let's see what happens. And you know, we've seen what fan power can do. We've seen the power that some clubs and their fans have. So if it is shit, a couple of years, if it is shit, perhaps have faith we'll be able to overturn it and send it back to how it was.
Well, you know, the thing is as well is, remember, we're still in the COVID period. Eventually fans will come back. At least within the next year or so, there should be full stadiums again. So the idea is, if you really don't like the new Champions League format, get your placards, get to those games, get your placards, all lift up massive banners, whatever, say, you know, go back to the old Champions League format, whatever. We've seen the fans have the power.
I suppose the only thing from that perspective, you're right, there will be more Champions League games for the fans to see. Yeah. So it might be slightly easier to get tickets for Champions League games.
There you go. That's the devil's advocate again. You know, nothing other than the Super League. There was nothing positive unless you were a fly-by-night fan who lived in a different country, possibly. The Super League was a nonsensical idea from start to finish. This, I would argue, is probably still a bad idea, but it does have benefits. You know, that's one of them. Maybe there's more opportunity for people who desperately wanted to see a team play in the Champions League, and now there's more opportunity for them to get tickets. So that's another positive. Anyway, let us know what you think. So that's me and Mike's perspective. Please hit us in the comments. Thank you to our loyal listeners, particularly Mark. We love you, Mark. Do let us know if you have any specific talking points about this that we hadn't considered, or contradict us on something you think we got badly wrong. And, you know, share, comment, whatever, interact, you know, help us get some more traffic and engagement. And until next time, we will grow you later.